Hey, everybody see a blue screen? Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm going to take a deep breath in. Let's all do it together. Technology. I am a librarian at Central Cabarrus High School, so my thing is books. I love technology, but I can talk to books a little bit better. So thank you for having me here today. One of my favorite books is A Long Walk to Water. So when Miss Lloyd said, can you talk about Native Americans in North Carolina, the migrations of Native Americans in North Carolina, and how it relates to A Long Walk to Water, I was thrilled because I have done lessons on this before. Than the presentation that I do. This is one of my most important slides in my presentation about my tribe because it talks about you and it asks the question, what is your culture? And our culture can be several things. It can be a recipe that our grandfather makes for us. It could be cultural clothing that we wear on particular times of the year for particular celebrations. It could be traditions. We're getting ready to come into the holidays. Some of us wrap our presents. Some of us keep our presents unwrapped. Some of us receive one gift. Some of us receive many gifts. So what is important about your culture is that we remember to celebrate the similarities, and hopefully you'll see similarities between my tribe and your culture, and we respect our differences. So there are 8 tribes in North Carolina, and here are the Native Americans in North Carolina by region. Some of them that you're familiar with are the Eastern Band of Cherokee. They're in the mountains of North Carolina in that orange area over to the left. They're the ones that hid out and were not part of the Trail of Tears. My tribe is in blue, the Lumbee tribe. We are towards the coast. And there's a list of other tribes. Some that you're maybe not familiar with are like the purple one, the Occaneechi Band of Saponi, or the Wakamasuan, also a tribe near the coast. But there's hundreds of tribes in the United States. And you've probably heard the word census. It is a word that we're using this year because we're creating the census. The census is almost like attendance in your classroom. So when the teacher takes roll and asks for your name, they say that you're present and that you're in the class. So we're taking the census now and getting an idea of who lives in America. In 2018, the census said that American Indians and Alaskan Natives make up 1.8% of the world population. It's a very small percentage. And within that 1.8%, each tribe is completely different than the other. So we are truly the minorities of the minority. So who are the Lumbee? We are the 9th largest tribe in the nation, largest tribe east of the Mississippi. Some claim that we're descendants of the lost colony of John White, who came to Roanoke. Others suggest that we're related to the Cherokee or Tuscarora. And others embrace that Lumbees were an integrated group of refugee Indians that came together. We have been studied and looked at through archaeological sites since 1200 BC. So there's certainly migrations that have happened with the Lumbees. Some of the recorders say that a physical trait that we have are they are the Lumbees with the gray or green eyes. So that's a physical trait that we have. So Lumbee migration, no one knows why the Indians known as the Lumbees came to Robeson County. That's the area of where we live. It is Pembroke, North Carolina, Lumberton, North Carolina. We were living there when white settlers came through in 1730s. So it's lost to why or when we were there. We know that our survival includes no major epidemic. There's lots of territories that were claimed because the soil was worth claiming and they wiped out massive amount of people. The Lumbee territory, we were pretty much left alone. We stayed in the swamps and kept to ourselves. The land was not that great at cultivating and farming, so we were sort of left alone. We know there were diseases, but there were no known health care except for what we provided ourselves with plants and herbs. So we know that there was a migration into North Carolina. And the present day Lumbees are a result of a mass migration, a cultural exchange between various tribes during the 16th and 17th century. So we have been around for a very long time. So where do Lumbees live? If you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're headed to Myrtle Beach, you take Highway 74 East. That highway is known as Andrew Jackson Highway. He was the president in 1830 that signed a law known as the Indian Removal Act. It removed 46,000 American Indians from 25 million acres of their own land. They died with cold, hunger, diseases. The Trail of Tears alone took out 4,000 Cherokee people that died moving out of the North Carolina mountains. So when you're on that Andrew Jackson Highway, about 2 hours into your drive, you're going to see a big giant sign that says the American Indian Highway. That's where my tribe is from. It is Pembroke, North Carolina, Red Springs, Maxton, Lumberton, if you've ever heard of those towns in North Carolina. It goes for about 24 miles, and then you're back on the Andrew Jackson Highway. But that's sort of a mile marker as to where my tribe is from. So the Cherokee migration, the removal and forced of the Cherokee Indians, happened in 1838. 15,000 Cherokees were moved from their home and had to travel Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, to what is now known as Oklahoma. And here's a map of them actually walking 5,043 miles. Just devastating to think about, and certainly died along the way, children, women, elderly people. It was certainly a hard trek for them. So here is a quick video of the Long Walk of Water. I'm going to send this to your teacher, but it quickly goes through Salva's journey when he walked, when he did this walk. It's a great kind of interactive map of where he was born and how he traveled. So I'll share that with your teacher so that they can have that, and you can look at that together to see Salva's walk. So there's current day migrations that have happened. In the early 20th century, modernization of farming happened in our region. So what that means were tractors became better, plowing became better. All of these things resulted in less farming, which means unemployment and underemployment for the Lumbee. So the Lumbees weren't able to take advantage of these new job opportunities, and they didn't have the skills and education to move into sectors of corporate America. So in the 1960s, Lumbee began to move into white collar and skilled blue collar occupations, and that meant they had to go outside of their home. One of the many places that you can find Lumbees today in an abundance number is Baltimore, Maryland, Charlotte, North Carolina, and parts of Michigan. This is one of my friend, he's Lewis. He is a really big participant in the Lumbee powwows, and I'm going to show you a video of him. But basically in the 60s, parts of Baltimore underwent massive urban renewal development, which means that the Lumbees that were living there were moved out. They had to move out. In 68, an American Indian Center was created in Baltimore, Maryland, and it still thrives today with a museum. It has exhibits on Lumbee art and culture. So there's a large presence of urban Lumbees that live in Baltimore, just to show you that migration still happens with a mass amount of people, including American Indians. So I'm going to show you a quick video so that you can meet Lewis. And hopefully this is going to work. If I could get a thumbs up.
I'm Lewis Campbell,
you can hear
Lumbee, from the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina, and
Thank you, Dr.
grew
Parrish.
up in Baltimore, Maryland, and raised all around Maryland. The Lumbees came to Baltimore for work back in the 50s. The Lumbee community in Baltimore used to be around Pratt Street, Lombard Street, Baltimore Street. A lot of them were steel workers, drywall guys. And my father came up here when he was 17, and he just now went back 2 or 3 years ago. And a lot of families are going back. There's really not as many Native people up here anymore, so they're going back home. Once I came to the city, I was always around natives and I always wanted to dance, but I was shy. I didn't start dancing until I was 26. July would be my 10th year dancing. Regalia is a suit of honor that you wear proudly while you dance, show off your traditions. And it's not a costume, it's a suit of honor. So everybody out there sees you not as just a normal person out there dancing. It's just something to make you look good out there. I change regalias usually once every 2 years, or sometimes even more than that, because I like to come out looking different, just be fresh, and I never like to come out with the same stuff. The breastplate, this is just a traditional piece, which people used to shoot arrows. The bone would reflect the arrow. It would hit and fly off. The cuffs, it's just for show, just flashy. And the moccasins are your shoes, belt. These beaded pieces right here go on your shoulder buckles, which just make you look bigger and just more full, so people will look at you more. This piece, it's called a roach pin. That goes inside of your roach. All the beadwork just to make you look better and more flashy. The roach is what goes on top of your head. The majority of dancers wear a roach. Majority of male dancers wear the roach or a pecho. And then I wear the mop top. And then I wear a shield, to protect you from arrows or whatever. The bustle is what goes on your back, represents freedom, the eagle in flight. I use a dance stick, or it can be a weapon. Only trademark that I have right now is the mop top, which I wear on my head. It's a mandan from the dog soldiers. They used to wear it on their head in war. They were the toughest warriors on the West Coast. I have it on a fishing hat, and it has a lot of eagle feathers on it, and hawk feathers, and turkey feathers, all kind of different feathers on it. But it's called a mandan, and a lot of people call it a mop top because the original mandan have eagle feathers coming down the center like a mohawk. A lot of people call the one I wear a mop top because it's not the same as the original mandan. Floral work represents East Coast Indians. The medicine wheel on it also represents the Lumbee. Just a breastplate alone would be about $500-$600 without the beadwork. And started making stuff on my own. Because when I first started, I started with nothing. I started with a used outfit and just collected stuff here and there, and it just got expensive. And then one of my friends, a Seneca lady, she showed me and my wife how to bead. And I just started showing other people how to bead. I use feathers, pony beads, brass beads, buffalo bone, eagle claws, bells, leather, conchos. They're metal. And for the beadwork, I use different types of cloth to bead on. Sometimes you use leather. Sometimes you can use just regular plain cloth. It evolved a lot, especially in the regalias. The colors and stuff, it used to be very dull, plain, and different types of beads and stuff they use is completely different. It's a lot more updated cloth. They used to use just leather. Different styles of stuff, different styles now compared to what they had before. I've always watched it since I've been to Baltimore, and I've watched old DVDs, and I have a good collection of DVDs. I always watch to get ideas of different steps and dances that I should do and what's proper and what's not. And there's a big difference in the way they dance, the clothing that they wear, how many feathers they wear, all different types of stuff. The colors that they have in their outfits, how full their outfits are, because when they first started, they weren't that full and flashy. But now you try to catch the eye of other people, of the judges and the people around and the photographers and stuff like that. So you want to get a little more flashy moves and flashy clothes. So it's a big difference from when it first started. It's more humble when it first started. Now it's a lot to do with competition.
Okay.
I'm Lewis Campbell.
So that was Lewis, and I am going to share with you some powwow dancing here in a second. But let me get back. But just to show you, there is current day migrations. So in your book, there are two characters that go back and forth, one from the past and one from the future. Salva is Dinka, and here are some of his tribal's markings. And then there was Naya, who was the current day character, and this is her tribal markings. And I bring that up because when Lewis was just talking, he was explaining a lot of symbolism that goes on in his culture. And the same thing happens in this book, where you can see different tribes and their different markings. So I just want you to think of any symbols that help identify us as our own family, our community, the cultures that we have, or an identity. One thing that comes to mind for me are flags. That's an example. And hopefully, when you look at these flags, you recognize some of them, you understand what they represent or who they represent. So that's just one thing. So start to take in these things like patterns and symbolisms to see that everyone has these sort of things in their own culture. If you take a pine cone and pick it up off the ground anywhere, any pine cone in North Carolina, and flip it over, it has a geometric shape right here in the center of this presentation. We like to put this on a lot of our regalias. And a regalia is a cultural clothing that we wear during ceremonious times like powwows. But what we do is we have recreated this Lumbee patchwork. It represents North Carolina, it represents our tribe, so that if you go to a powwow and it's intertribal, and what that means is many different tribes are participating in the dances, you'll be able to recognize, like this young lady sitting here on the ground, okay, she is from the Lumbee tribe. She has got that Lumbee symbol on her regalia, so I know that she's Lumbee. So here's just another picture of some great Lumbee patchworks, the pine cone patchwork for you to see. And I love how the girls have their regalias bring out their personality. So you see this young lady in yellow. She is a student at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and she has school pride. She's got her school colors. She's got the school mascot on her regalia. And then you see this young lady in the red. At the bottom of her regalia, her fabric has musical notes. So I know that she likes to sing, but this just tells you a little personality about her while also stating that she's from the Lumbee tribe. There's so many opportunities to experience and support the Lumbee tribe. We have two major holidays. One is 4th of July. It's called Lumbee Homecoming. It's where everybody comes home. Then we have another one. It's known as the Dance of the Spring Moon. It happens in the first weekend in May. That's the one I would say to go to if you wanted to take a daycation and drive 2 hours. Is not as many people as homecoming, and you get to experience the same thing as homecoming. There's the powwow, there's parades, there's food and music. And right now I'm going to show you just a quick video of our chairperson inviting you to a powwow. We don't call them chiefs, we call them chairpersons. So I'll show you just this quick video. It's again an invitation to a powwow, but it also shows you the aerial view of the powwow just so you can see on top what a powwow actually looks like.
Hello, I'm Harvey Godwin Jr., Lumbee Tribal Chairman. I would like to personally invite everyone to our 14th annual Dance of the Spring Moon Lumbee Powwow on May 3rd through May 5th at the Lumbee Tribe Culture Center. Come out and experience native arts, foods, dances, and much more. Our arbor grounds and stickball field will host over 400 dancers and many drum circles, and visitors from all over the United States and Canada. Join us as we celebrate the rich culture and history of our native people. We hope to see you here.
Okay, so that was our chairperson. Now I'm going to share one of my friend who put together, he is a filmmaker, he puts together some of these powwows. It is with modern music. So the music that you're listening to is not American Indian music. But what I like about this video and why I like sharing it is because you get to see various different tribes participating in a powwow, and you get to see various looks of Lumbees as well as symbolism throughout. Okay, so that's just a glimpse into a powwow. Hopefully, you can come and celebrate with us. We would love to have you. Again, it's that first weekend in May. In my other presentations, some of the things I just go over are misconceptions about Native Americans, so I'd like to go through this really quickly. Lumbees did not live in teepees. The American Indians that lived in teepees needed to follow their resources. And what I mean is they needed to find water, they needed to find food, they needed to find land to live on, so they needed a collapsible house that they could move with. Fortunately for the Lumbee tribe, we had all those resources around us. We had trees to build what would resemble a log cabin home. We had food, we had water around us, so we never had to leave. And also know that we're not all from the same tribe. There are 575 federally recognized tribes, 200 that are not recognized. The Lumbee are partially federally recognized. I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to try to all kinds of distractions today, y'all. I'm very sorry. But just remember that each tribe is completely different. I like this cartoon here at the bottom where the young man says to the young lady, really, you don't look Indian. But to him, his interpretation of an Indian is Pocahontas or the Washington football team, the butter that has the little Indian maiden on it. I think Pocahontas is a beautiful Disney character, but my tribe looks nothing like her. So don't assume Indians look a particular way. We all look different and we celebrate that. If you Google Lumbees, you will find that we, again, are partially federally recognized. And what that means is that we don't receive money coming into our tribe on a regular basis like tribes that are on reservation. There's good and bad things about that. In 1885, we were recognized by the state of North Carolina, and in 1888, we started to petition for that full federal recognition. But because we lived in peace with non-Indian neighbors, we really didn't have any land or anything valuable like gold on our land. No one really had a reason to treaty with us or take possessions away from us. In 1956, we were partially federally recognized, and we are the poorest county in North Carolina. And we're still trying. Both Trump and Biden have both promised to fully federally recognize us. But until that ink dries, we are still, we just hope that it will happen. So we've been waiting for 135 years for full federal recognition. Some things that you can do during Native American Heritage Month or any time is go on any kind of Google site and find out what tribe was there at your home address before you were. If the tribe is still around, they have a website. So if your land is Cherokee, you can go to cherokee.org. You can give community service once the world returns to normal, or you can give a donation. If someone claims to have Native American in their family, then they need to be given to that tribe. Again, community service, donations. If anyone says that they have Lumbee in them, then they need to go to lumbee.org and give to the community. They need to participate in those powwows, those cultural events to give back. And then educate yourself on issues like water pipelines, boarding schools, Halloween costumes, sports mascots. All of these things can be a conversation that you have in your classroom. So again, here's the timeline of A Long Walk to Water. And here's some of activities that I have done with my students in the past when we read A Long Walk to Water. We actually carried not a full bucket of water because they were in my library and I have books all around, but we carried rocks in a bucket that had the same weight of the water. It was very hard just kind of casually walking around here. So you think of what Naya had to do every single day and what Salva had to do every single day just to get drinking water. And again, that drinking water wasn't the best water. Also, I don't know if you remember the part in the book where the bees happened and a lot of the bee stings. Try to taste some honey. There's always local honey that you can do, maybe a candy that has honey in it, just to bring that book to life for you. Another activity that my students and I did, we took a paper plate and we put a little water in it, and then we added pepper. If you put your finger in that water, for whatever reason, the pepper goes away from your hand and moves to the side. And what I wanted my students to experience is filtration, water filtration, how water is treated. And this activity sort of does that for you so that you can visually see the bad things coming out of water to make water safe for us. So that's just an activity that you can do with your classes. And while I was doing this, this lesson with my school, we found out that one of our elementary schools actually did a fundraiser and raised over $10,000 for water, clean water, for Salva's project. And I believe I've got a quick video. I do. If I've got time to show this video, it just shows their program and how you can raise money and why water is so important.
What was the first thing you did when you woke up this morning? Chances are you used water. Try to imagine life without water. It's tough, we know. But for lots of people, life without clean water is just life. It's normal. In some places, it's normal to walk 4 hours a day to get water. Water that's disgusting. It's full of diseases, nasty ones like dysentery, cholera, and typhoid. In fact, diseases from dirty water kill more people every year than all forms of violence, including war. And here's the crazy thing. The water crisis is solvable. Our planet has water. We just need to help people get it. When we do, it brings all kinds of changes. Clean water improves health, gives kids more time in school, empowers women, boosts economies, and gives hope for a brighter future. Clean water changes just about everything. So, what can you do? We're asking you to give. Give a little, give a lot, give everything you've got. What if you've given before? You've advocated, put your heart in, gotten creative, scraped the bottom of your penny jar, and been disappointed. So what? We can change the world here. Dare to believe again. This time, ask where your money goes. We say it all goes. Every penny goes to the field. You say, prove it. We say, we already do. Want to change the world? It starts with something that has the power to change everything. It starts with you.
Okay, well, I just love, 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 love this book. It is my absolute favorite, and I appreciate your patience with me during this presentation and all the hiccups that we had. Are there any questions that I can answer? And I'll stop. Maybe I could stop sharing my screen. See everybody? Cool. Anybody have any questions? Did you enjoy the book? I loved the book. Yes, I see some yeses. Great. And I hope I didn't give anything away. Have y'all finished? You finished the book, right? Okay. Yeah, I loved the story, how it went from the past and went from the present. And the whole time I kept thinking, wouldn't it be cool if they met? And then they did, and it was really great. So I think I see a question. Let me see. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Thought I saw someone with a question. Maybe, oh, how did you find out you were from the Lumbee tribe? I've always known. My parents, I've always known. I have been around the culture and never knew myself as anything but Lumbee Indian. I'm a Charlotte Meck student. I went to J.H. Gunn and then Northeast. We called it junior high. It's middle school now. And then Independence High School. And when I was in school for Charlotte-Mecklenburg, we had an Indian education program. So in addition to going to my regular classes, I also was a participant in the American Indian Education Program. During the summer, we went to places like DC to be governor's pages. We went and visited other tribes out west. So I've always been constantly involved. I hear someone says, I have Native American ancestors. How do you find out what tribe you're from? You do not need to go to ancestry.com and spend your money. You need to speak to your ancestors. So if you have grandparents that are still living, great aunts, ask these questions. They are your most valuable resource. If they do know anything about that, then you'll need to find your tribal card. At that point, you can go online to the tribe's website. Everybody's got one, so just Google and look up the tribe's website and try to find out their tribal office. And you can try to obtain your tribal card as well. Let's see, what if you're not sure? Same thing, I would definitely ask your parents. I would not trust those Ancestry.com websites. The thing about Ancestry.com is they accepted DNA from certain people. So when you give your DNA, it's going to look like it came from certain people. So if you didn't have a mass amount of Cherokees giving their DNA, then Cherokee's not going to come up. If you didn't have a lot of mass amount of people giving Lumbee DNA, Lumbee's not going to come up. The best thing for you to do is ask your family. Yep. And you can also go to the tribal website and ask the tribal website. Sometimes they have records. And as long as you can show that lineage from your family history to the person that had a tribal card, then that starts the process. So if your great grandma was Native American, then you would have a percentage of Native American in you. Yep. So again, look and see if you can find these tribal websites. They are everywhere online. And the most important thing too is to also participate in that tribe's celebrations, their cultural celebrations. If you find an artist, buy from that artist. there's people that, as, you know, maybe a famous author or someone that blogs, follow them on your social media, support them in that way. Good questions. I think this was a 6th grade. Is this a 6th grade class? Very smart questions. 7th. There you go. That's why you're so smart. Does it make me sad or angry to visit the American Indian Highway? Oh, that's very kind of you. It does. I think that all of us have ancestral scars that we deal with, things that maybe are not very happy from what our parents had to go through. When my parents were growing up, they drank from a 3rd water fountain. So there was a water fountain for whites, there was a water fountain for blacks, and there was a water fountain for American Indians. And that upsets me, especially when I found that out from my mom. But there's a part of her attitude is she was thankful to have a water fountain. So I try to move on from things that have happened and try to make it better for myself and my children. Good question. But I do carry that with me. I think we all carry some things about our past. And, you know, the American history past is a heavy one. I mean, it's certainly it doesn't have bruises on it. Any other questions? I will say that A Long Walk to Water is one of my favorite books. I think it was just a clever way to introduce this part of the world. It brought in science. I think it brought in the importance of how we need to correct water filtration issues that we have. So it really brought in a lot of topics to discuss.
I would like to thank you so much. Your presentation is excellent. And we all loved A Long Walk to Water, and this tied everything together so nicely. Thank you so much.